All right, today we're going to dig into a pretty heavy new report on Iran. This comes from the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, and honestly, it paints a really stark picture. They're talking about a dramatic escalation in the government's crackdown on religious belief. So let's break down what they found.
Right off the bat, the report sounds an alarm. It connects a military escalation back in June 2025 to what happened next. The Iranian government basically launched this massive systematic crackdown internally. They were aiming to stamp out what they see as threats from dissidents and religious minorities.
So that really frames the whole thing, right? It leaves us asking a huge question when the report tries to answer. Who exactly is being targeted, and what does this campaign of repression actually look like for people on the ground?
Okay, so let's get into the specifics of who's being targeted. The report lays out this systematic campaign against certain faith communities, and we're going to start with one of the most vulnerable groups.
First on that list are the Baha'is. We're talking about Iran's largest non-Muslim religious minority here, a community of about 300,000 people. But here's the key thing. Their faith isn't officially recognized by the Constitution. And that, right there, leaves them in a really, really precarious position.
And the kind of persecution they face, it's not just one thing. It's coming at them from all sides. The report documents this whole range of government policies, everything from arbitrary arrests and economic discrimination to the actual destruction of their cemeteries. They're even denied proper burial rights. Just think about that.
You know, reports like this can feel like just data, but this one really makes it personal by highlighting specific cases, showing the human cost. Take the story of Afif Naimi, a Baha'i leader. He's in prison, and a medical report confirms he has a deteriorating heart condition. He's not fit to be there. But did the authorities listen? Nope. They just rejected it, flat out, denying him the care he desperately needs.
And it's not just the Baha'is. The report makes it clear that Christians, especially people who convert from Islam, are also being systematically targeted. And the government often uses this really charged accusation of promoting Zionist Christianity to try and falsely link their faith to the state of Israel. And the consequences for them are just incredibly severe. The report lists things like long prison sentences just for being part of a house church, authorities seizing Bibles, psychological torture, and, sound familiar? Just like with the Baha'is, denying them medical treatment in prison.
And once again, a personal story just drives this home with heartbreaking clarity. The report brings up a letter from an Armenian Christian named Jacob Gochumyan, who was sentenced to 10 years. In his letter, he describes this cruel treatment, including psychological torture and threats being made against his family while he was locked up.
Okay, now the situation for Iran's Jewish community is, well, it's kind of a paradox. On paper, Judaism is an officially recognized religion, but the report finds that the community, which is about 8,500 people, feels increasingly insecure and threatened. So what's going on there?
Well, here's the crucial point. That official recognition doesn't actually mean protection. Not at all. The state is actively creating this hostile environment. We're talking public demonization, state-sponsored Holocaust denial competitions, constant surveillance of synagogues, and even forcing community leaders to make public statements supporting the government.
And this persecution isn't just limited to non-Muslim minorities. It also extends to other Muslims. Sunni Muslims are actually the largest religious minority in the country, and the report details a really severe crackdown against them too. This includes executions, arrests, and even the disappearance of well-known clergy.
And the report gives some chillingly specific examples of just how severe this is. Just from 2025 alone, get this, 5 Sunni men were executed in a single day in Mashhad. Another religious leader was reportedly taunted about his faith right before he was executed, and you have security forces being deployed to one of the biggest Sunni mosques in Zahedan. It's intense.
So up to now, we've been talking mostly about specific minority communities, but the report makes a really important shift here. It makes it clear that this campaign of forced religious compliance, it extends to everyone. The state is trying to impose its own narrow interpretation of Islam on the entire population. And one of the main ways they're doing this? By cracking down even harder on the mandatory hijab laws. The Commission reports a really severe campaign targeting women and girls who dare to dissent from the state's religious dress code. This is basically an escalation of the repression we've seen since the death of Mahsa Amini.
And this isn't just about morality police on the street anymore, no. The government is bringing in a lot of technology to enforce all this. The report details this huge surveillance effort. I'm talking cameras being installed on homes and businesses,
over 50,000 police getting body cams, and they're even using contactless payment readers to identify and track women who defy the hijab law.
But the ultimate tool of enforcement is the death penalty. And the number the report gives is just staggering. Listen to this. By late May 2025, times alone, Iranian authorities had executed 478 people. And a lot of these executions are carried out using these religiously based charges. One of them is called maharabe, which literally translates to waging war against God. The report explains how this is basically used as a legal weapon to prosecute dissidents, and it's a charge that can carry the death penalty.
So, you might think this is all happening just within Iran's borders, but the report shows that's not the case. The Commission also found that Iran is actively exporting its intolerance, and it's doing it through a global campaign of anti-Semitism.
And we're not just talking about angry speeches here. The report finds that Iran is sponsoring actual physical attacks and propaganda campaigns way beyond its own borders, targeting Jewish communities and sites as far away as Europe.
And the ways they're doing this are, well, they're varied and pretty alarming. The report talks about Iran recruiting criminal gangs in Europe to attack Jewish sites. It talks about activating proxy cells in the UK to harm Jewish individuals. They're using state media to pump out anti-Semitic propaganda in Spanish. They're even promoting bizarre conspiracy theories like the Plan Andina, which is this completely false story about a Jewish plot to take over Patagonia. It's a global effort.
Okay, so after laying out all of that evidence, from inside Iran to its actions abroad, what are the big takeaways? Let's boil it all down to the report's final stark conclusions.
The report from USCIRF doesn't pull any punches. It concludes, in no uncertain terms, that Iran is an egregious violator of religious freedom. It says that the authorities relentlessly target minorities, that the state represses women using these religiously grounded policies, and that all of this just reaffirms why Iran is designated as a country of particular concern.
When you step back and look at the whole picture, what this report is really documenting is a systematic effort to make belief itself a crime. It's a violation of a fundamental human right, happening on a massive scale. And that leaves us with a really challenging final question. What is the world's responsibility when a government decides that belief itself is a crime?